The National Association of Realtors just released some forecasting for 2026 sales, and you are going to be a little surprised at what they have in store for us for the next year. This is your host, Ron Wojciechowski, for the Black Hole of Real Estate, and it's very, very interesting that they are reporting through their data projections that existing home sales are going to increase by 14%. With regard to the number of homes sold. And when you think about 2025 being what many would call a very stagnant year, that's a pretty sizable jump in just 1 year's time. And it might make sense because I believe that there are some homes that didn't sell this year because of things beyond the sales control. Whether it's the economy, uncertainty, higher interest rates at the beginning of the year, and now that's shifting and changing. They also project that there's going to be within that a 5% increase in new home sales. And none of this is likely to affect prices in a negative way. They're actually projecting at least a 4% increase in median sales price. And that's where it gets really, really interesting to me, because if you had yourself in a sideline for the last few years, waiting for prices to come down, because the sentiment for so many was that prices just have to come down and there's a lack of affordability. And the reality of it is the prices just continue to climb, including this year, despite a stagnant market. And what it means is as things are accelerating into the next year, sales will go up, prices go up. It's something we've talked about a lot on this podcast. And I have felt very, very strongly that it would continue to increase. Home sales prices will increase. And it's becoming a reality once again. The interest rates, they've been hovering in the 6.25 to 6.3 average interest rate over the last month. And now we're on the cusp of a Fed meeting December 8th and 9th. And it's highly anticipated that now they're getting some of the data from the shutdown back, that they're going to go ahead and do that next quarter point rate cut. The last time around it was, I believe, 12 out of 13 or 14 of the voters on the Open Market Committee, Federal Open Market, FOMC, so it's the Fed. All but one voted for a quarter point, one voted against, one actually wanted a half point, so it's like 14 different votes in there. And it's now widely anticipated that they're going to go ahead. There was some concern that maybe they just leave it where it is, but now there's enough additional data coming out. It looks like you can get that quarter point reduction, which is going to bring things right down close to 6%, 5.875, somewhere in that range. It's something we've talked about all year long. I think they'll actually touch down at 5.875 leading up to December 8th and 9th, and probably tick back up because they price it in before the Fed meeting. I think you're going to see something in the fives there. I believe some lenders are going to be aggressive to end the year to get more loans on the books. But I think what you'll notice after that is 6%. In any event, we were looking at sevens and higher for many consumers just a year ago. So this is really good news as far as your monthly payment. But let's balance it out with it's going to cost a bit more to purchase that home as we get into the new year. We have certainly seen an uptick in activity over the last couple of months in, I would say, our team's business. But overall, it has been quieter. It has been stagnant. The showing counts are absolutely down. And I think it's about to change. And so many people say, geez, nobody buys or sells during the holidays. We're having one of the best months we've ever had in the history of the team. And this goes back 15, 20 years. So for us, it's been pretty good. Data is going to change among companies, among teams, among agents, but there are some people out there selling a lot of property right now. I do think that's going to increase in the next year. And NAR is, they're predicting the same. So if you're looking at a 14% increase, and if there was, 3 million-ish sales, 3.5 million sales this year, add that back in, it gets us much, much closer into that, 4.5, 5 million sales that we have seen the last several years. It's been quieter the last 2 years, and now it's reaching back up to that. So what we're probably finding is that there will be more homes coming on the market, more selection for buyers, which is one of the biggest concerns that I've heard all year long is, there's really nothing to buy, or I'm not seeing what I want. And I believe as we see more pictures and videos on the internet. Most consumers are not looking at 20 or 30 houses anymore. They're looking at them online. And it's been the case for many, many years. They're looking at a few when they come to town. They come in for a day or two. They get shopping. They go out the first weekend, second weekend, and they're getting it done because there's so much data and so much looking that's already taking place before they ever get out in the field. So taking the data that we have right now, a 14% projected increase, it's NAR, National Association of Realtors. They put that information out this week. They're looking at a 5% increase in new home sales and about a 4% increase in the purchase price. So it's all interesting news. It's good for sellers and consumers to have this information so they can base their timeline on these future findings. Should we buy now? Should we hold off a little bit, wait till after the year? I know there's a lot of activity right now because every year there's someone who wants to buy before the end of the year, someone wants to sell before the end of the year, whether it's just for the new year or maybe for some tax purposes. But the activity's taken up right now, and I think you'll see an increase in that as we get closer to the Fed meetings and then closing out the rest of the year. So that's the report that I have for you. It's arrows up for the market. It looks like we're heading into a really, really good year, and maybe we've made it through this tough time the last year or so in the real estate industry. If you got some questions, let me know. Definitely hit the subscribe button. This is your host, Ron Wojciechowski for the Black Hole of Real Estate.